Very happy Wednesday, everyone. You see Laurent, our resident guest, so to speak. Welcome back, Laurent. Good to have you again.
Awesome being back like always. Thank you.
You are sort of a resident already. I don't know how many episodes we already did together. So I wonder, when do we become officially a co host at Swisspreneur?
That would be a nice thing to do, yeah. Not sure we can make space for it, but I actually thought about it and I think we're now close to 10 episodes that I was able to share with you. So yeah, it's been amazing. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Let's see what we are cooking up for next year. I'm sure we have some ideas that we can do together. Melanie Gabriel from Yokoi, she will also join us in a few minutes. She's running a bit behind schedule, so she will be here any minute from now. Lolo, today we want to talk about marketing and also the famous topic of product-led growth. And I feel often when you talk to startups, they have this misconception, maybe even, where they say, oh, I don't need a sales force anymore. I just build a really, really great product and the viral loop into my product, and my customers, my users will come and flow in on their own. First of all, from your perspective, to just define the terms a bit, what is marketing or sales led growth and what is product led growth? Just to be very laser focused and very clear.
All right. Marketing-led growth is really when, as the name says, marketing is doing the major heavy lifting. So this means building a brand, really having ad-based or outreach-based marketing that actually drives the people to come to your page. So this is often the case, let's say, in service businesses or in very high ACV businesses where it's not just, come in, sign up and you're done, where you actually need someone to really get to know the brand and get to know you a little bit better so that they can really be convinced of starting. And the product-led growth is much more the product does the work for itself. So you get in touch with the product. Usually it's a freemium sort of product. You start interacting with it, you like it, and then you basically upsell the customer into a paid version or whatever. So this is usually like the low friction SaaS tools, let's say Notion, Slack, Calendly, these kind of, or Figma, these kind of tools. They don't
Mhm.
necessarily need a marketing led sales. They can really do it with product led. And it's usually the case where you have an immediate feeling for the value of the product. You start using it and it's like, okay, this makes sense. I can use this. And if it's more consulting or more setup heavy, that's usually not the place for product led. That's where you actually need marketing led growth, in my opinion.
Got it. Hey, Melanie, great to have you. How are you?
Hello, great. I'm doing well. Just in the middle of everything, end of year hustle. So sorry for being late to this live show.
Don't worry. We just started with a little term definition, but to also properly introduce you, you wear many, many different hats. Most people know you as co founder of Yokoi, the scale up that recently got acquired. But you also run your own podcast, Follow the Gradient, and the newsletter with the same name. You're co leading the ETH AI Center, and you're also involved with SIGTIC. So you have many different hats, and probably the best person to talk to today about our core topic. But just a little opening question for you. You have done, I think you just recently hit about 50 podcasts that you released. So congratulations on that. And I
Thank you.
wonder, what is sort of a core messaging or a key takeaway from these 50 episodes? I'm sure you've done some reflection on that.
Yeah, very much. And like, I mean, in the end, it's very. I mean, on the one hand, it's super insightful everything, and to be very honest, in the end, I'm also doing that for myself because it's great to have a podcast because you always have an excuse to reach out to the greatest people in Europe,
Agree.
pick their brains. So I can recommend that for everyone. I think the biggest learning is really again like the human side. So the most like viewed or listened to podcast sessions were really the ones that are super deep, super honest, also talking about uncomfortable truths. So I think here, for example, with Adrian Locher or recently with Jonas Muffer, we talked about burnout, about mental health, about being this ambitious founder that we all want to strive to be, but still kind of not burning out. And then on the other hand, which is also linked to what is currently going on just in the European, but really on a global scale, is really this question of, hey, what is Europe doing in order to keep a competitive edge and really kind of ace it and be able to compete against US and Asia? And there we had incredible like insights from the likes of like Andreas Klinger, for example, who is the co-initiator of EU Inc., but also kind of this more founder-led or VC-led, like Kitty Maya from Project Europe, or like Amy Levin, who is like editor at Sifted. So it's really this view on what is needed in Europe to be super strong. And these are insights that then also combine my work, be it at the ETHAI Center. I always say that's my day job, and Follow the Grading is my night shift. But I think there are a lot of synergies that I see.
I love that. And I also love this European perspective because it's a very, very hot topic at the moment. We could probably just do a 1 or 2 hour session on that topic alone. But today we want to talk about marketing, and in that sense also about marketing or sales-led growth versus product-led growth. Laurent already briefly defined the terms before. And I wonder from your experience, can you use both strategies at the same time to a certain extent, or do you have to decide for one or the other when you're building and then eventually scaling your startup, Melanie?
So I think they should work together. And like, especially in B2B, like most of your potential customers are not buying right now. So I once read the study that 95% of like basically your customers are not really in the mode of actively searching for your product. They might not even know that you that they have this issue. So you're basically competing for this 5% of people who are actively looking for your solution. And if you only focus on that, and be it like, so basically on the capture with search, retargeting, but also review sites, you really like fighting with everyone else. And so in my opinion, and I didn't hear the like the definition of marketing growth, but as far as I understand it, it's really marketing-led growth is how you win this 95%. So you build memory, you build trust, you with the people that are not buying yet, but at one point will enter the market, so to say, and then product-led growth kicks in, because the product then shows proofs, gets them to value fast, and really support this expansion. So in practice, it's often a combination that you start with marketing growth, marketing-led growth, and then kind of hand it over to product-led growth in order then to close them.
That sounds very easy in theory. I'm sure practically it's a big challenge to pull that off. And Laurent, at holycode, you work with many startups, but also scale-ups. You've been a founder yourself, so you really know what it means to build a company. So let's just say I have a very small startup team, 3 people. We work in a basement. We've got really scarce resources, so we cannot do everything, but at the same time, we sort of have to get everything done. How do we choose the right type of growth that is really best for us at this early stage? What is your experience? Maybe also how you did it with Movu, etc. Tell us a bit more about how you approached that challenge.
I think that the very, very important factor here that we need to talk about is what kind of business is it? Because it makes a huge difference whether you're selling the sort of Notion SaaS company B2B that is $20 a month or something like that, because that's very clearly going to fall into a mixture of product-led growth and marketing-led growth. Or are you selling, I'm probably going to exaggerate it now, but are you selling something like Yokoi that is a couple of $100K ACV on the customer that you want to have, where you need sales-led growth? So that's partially marketing-led, but it's definitely sales-led growth afterwards, because it's high volumes. You need to convince the customer, you need to show them, you need to create a proof of concept with them. So I think it's very, very different depending on the area that you're working in. And if you have an e-commerce store, yeah, it's most probably going
Right.
to be very much marketing driven, right? So that's it. Really heavily depends what you're building, and then let's say within the areas where product-led growth is actually possible. Obviously, that's the dream of every founder. You have 3 people, you sit down, you create a product that is so awesome that it's going viral and everybody just signs up, and that's it. That happens, what, 1 in a million times? So for all the others out there, and yeah, unfortunately, that's also always been my story, it's a bit more messy. It's a bit more a mix of everything. So you try to create a product-led growth if you can, but it's going to be a lot of marketing and actual sales outreach, so sales-led growth that you have to do in the beginning until you start figuring out those motions that actually drive user activation and user retention. And then step by step, you will get more into product-led. But in the beginning, my opinion is talk to customers. So sales-led. Really try to talk to customers because you will learn so much more by talking to them than by running an ads campaign or a branding campaign or something like that. So I would always try to go with sales led first, and then from there figure out the right mix of marketing and product led, if product led is possible in your case.
Amazing. I have two interesting observations I want to share on this decision whether you should go marketing and sales led or product led. The first one is Canva is a great example, right? There are always rumors that they are now preparing to do an IPO, etc. And what they're basically doing, they were heavily product led, but now are shifting also towards the enterprise customers. So towards a strong marketing and sales led growth, because obviously they want to maximize the company valuation to go public. So I feel sooner or later you will probably have to have this sales led growth to get to really lucrative customers if you want to go public or if you want to make it big. The
I mean,
second thing,
if you get there, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Because
sure,
if you're so successful, I mean, this is the story we all want to build. But if you're
yeah,
so successful in your product-led segment, in your category, that you're basically dominating this, and 60-70% of the users are using your product, at some point you have to outgrow your segment. So either you need to
exactly.
build a second segment with product led, which is super difficult to do, or as you say, you go upstream and you start going for bigger customers, and then suddenly you need to do marketing led or sales led
Yeah,
growth.
because
So
like also when we take our example, like and normally a CFO for 3,000 people doesn't go on a website and tests like a freemium product. Like this will just signal to them that it's cheap and it's probably
Yeah.
not the standards, it doesn't have ISO and GDPR compliance. And so I think it's also the signaling that you have with like just testing it out or having a whole sales marketing machine convincing you.
The second point I also wanted to share is coming from a Swiss startup that we probably all know very well, Frontify. They were actually trying and also testing the product-led growth part for a long time because it made a lot of sense, right? You sort of have a virality in the product by other people accessing the platform and then sort of, oh, I also want to use that for my brand. However, I then once talked to Roger because we were thinking about a similar challenge. Should we focus on product-led or sales-led growth? And then he said, look, for probably 99% of the startups that are somewhere in the software space, product-led is probably an illusion that you think it's an easier way, it's going to work, but it's actually way harder than you think. So they then completely switched to only marketing and sales-led growth. And I thought that really interesting because I do feel that many founders think it's so easy, I want to do product-led growth, but I think it's such a small percentage that probably marketing and sales-led growth is the go-to way for most founders out there.
Mhm. And isn't that also the typical thing that we say that is the issue of especially Swiss startups, but also I think European startups, that we do concentrate so much on having a perfect product and making everything right with the product and completely forget that we might miss the market and might miss the customer because we haven't talked to them and don't know what they actually care about. So I think it
100%.
exactly supports this.
Absolutely. So I think that's also good focus for us to say, look, product-led growth exists, but at least in the beginning, as Laurent said, you should go out there, talk to your users. And probably for most startups in the software space, product-led growth is more of an illusion than actual practicality. So let's say I've decided to go for marketing and sales-led growth, Melanie. marketing still includes a huge spectrum of things, right? I can do so many different things.
Mm.
How do I best allocate my small, tiny marketing budget that I have available?
Or non-existent one, as it
Exactly.
was in my case. Yeah, I mean, in the end, the question should really be not like which channel do I use, but really what is the outcome I want to achieve? What is the goal? And like a helpful kind of allocation when you talk about percentages. But I agree also here with Laurent. In the end, it depends on the case you have, and that's always the not so nice answer, because like it doesn't give like the silver bullet to startups, but it's like that you kind of like allocate like 50 to 60% into creating demand. So really like the product marketing, thought leadership, founder visibility, events, content. Like this also is based on what you hear from the customers, because as a founder you should actually always be in touch with the customers and not give that up, because I think the moment you lose that, you kind of also lose like the long-term goal. And then have like, let's say 30 to 40% into capturing demand. So really the people who are already looking for your solution, who have a problem, who know that they have a problem, and who are also willing to pay for it, because that's a whole other thing. So really there, I think about like search, review sites, demo pricing pages, and so on. This is really where you kind of convert like those who are already looking. And then I would always leave like, let's say 10 to 20% for experiments. So new channels, new formats, things that might fail, but you teach you something, and kind of just iterate very fast in order to also take these learnings and then move on. So that is like what I would say without knowing the specific case of the listener.
Makes sense. And as you said, there's no silver bullet, but at the same time, if we reverse that question, I'm sure also with your experience at Yokoi, you probably tested out things, especially as an early stage startup, where you, in retrospect, can say, hey, that's a complete waste of time or money. What are some of these marketing activities that are often just a complete waste, and you better don't do them at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm a huge believer in events. I mean, there I must say, we like went into the market when COVID hit. So events suddenly weren't an option or were not an option at all at the beginning. But I think if it's very targeted, then that could be a huge lever. But it's very important that you don't go to very random events where there is not really a target audience. So in our case, we normally went to places where there are CFOs, finance leaders, but not just like a random so startup event where you don't even have your target audience. So I think there you can waste a lot of time, a lot of money, and also even if you go to events, I sometimes see people who just go to an event but they don't do the prep work, and they also don't do the follow up. And I always say, if you go to an event, you should always know who you basically should have lined up sales meetings. Otherwise, it's not really worth it. So there, I think you can waste a lot of time and resources. Posting generic stuff without really knowing, but just like kind of use the spaghetti tactic and just be everywhere and nowhere. So I think that is another one. And then maybe controversial for investors, but at this stage you might not even have investors on board, is really over investing into fancy reports and dashboards if you don't have the number or the volume of numbers yet. It's very important that you test things out and that you move quickly, but sometimes you see like 40 pages of some sort of insight, and I don't really know what you want to achieve with these 10 leads that you got. It's not really helping you.
All really, really great points. I thought the conferences are there for free food, Laurent, right? And playing basketball with you guys.
Most important part is food, popcorn, and basketball. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. How is it for you? Do you have like maybe not a silver bullet, but just a channel like events or something specifically that worked very well for you, whether at holycode or at Movu, whatever comes to mind?
It was different things in different businesses, to be honest. So for Movu, for example, I mean, that was a B2C marketplace for relocations. Google Ads was by far the biggest thing, right? The problem with Google Ads is they know how to price it so that your customer lifetime value and your customer acquisition costs will just about even out. So, but that was very clear. The customer had a very clear intent. He didn't know where to go. So he went to Google to search for, I need to move. At Bexio, it's a bit of a mix. Yes, obviously also Google and in general, search was really, really big. But over time, they started to build a really great marketing, branding, sponsoring segment. So today, almost everyone in Switzerland at least knows what Bexio is, right?
Yeah.
So there it was, over time, it became much more of a branding story. And at holycode, the channel that worked really the best for us for a long time was LinkedIn. That was in the early days. Now LinkedIn is so messy, AI content everywhere. So it's a bit different. But in the beginning, it was really LinkedIn, because where do people that talk about how to make their company more successful using IT or technology, where do they land usually? And it was on LinkedIn. Today it's a bit less so. So yeah, we're having to find a new place now to go and get our clients from.
But there, I feel you probably still have a good opening, because on LinkedIn, now with all this AI generated content, if you have authenticity and you put yourself out there with real content that is not like AI generated, you probably still stand out and can engage the right people at the right time, I imagine.
That's still the case, yeah. I mean, I still, whenever I go to events, which I also do a lot,
Yeah.
whenever I go there, there's always people that tell me, I know you from LinkedIn, or it feels like I know you because I read you on LinkedIn. And people actually usually tell me that the reason why they like my posts is because they're very authentic. There's no AI in it. It's usually quite vulnerable in some way. I also try to show the downsides of it. And I think that's, at the end, that's what also Melanie said before. As a founder, you are one of the branding instruments of your company. If you're not out there transporting this message into the market, who else is, right? So
Right.
it still works, but it's been much better 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. And Melanie, coming back to you, I wonder, when you built Yokoi, you probably did everything marketing wise in the beginning. Obviously, as a founder, that's sort of your role. At what point did you feel it was time to hire additional support and additional woman and manpower to join your team and work on the marketing front?
Well, I mean, in the end, it was also a budget discussion, and at the beginning, like there was just no budget, so it was like fortunate that basically one of the founders is a CMO. So as you said, I did everything, and then like as soon as I could, I hired a first intern back then, because I was looking for a generalist that is super hungry, is willing to learn, and is just willing to kind of grow every other day. And I think that is also what I would probably suggest to founders who don't have marketing represented in their founder team, that you really look for this generalist person, not a specialist, because you first need to figure out what actually works, and really someone who talks to customers and sales and actually understands the problem, defines the positioning, ships landing pages quickly, learns, can also read some analytics, and in the end, it's really like having this drive and move forward very fast. And so I think that is something that I would hire, and I was also looking for. And then depending on what you get, it's really doubling down on either like somebody who's very strong in growth, demand marketing, or then again, if you need like somebody in the storytelling place for use cases and all these stories, then it's rather such a person. But I think in the end, that this is not only true for the marketing team, but really true for startups. I strongly believe that the first 10 people really make or break your startup. And in the end, what they all have in common is they want to achieve something that most people think it's a little bit too crazy. They're hungry, they're curious, and they constantly want to learn. And I think then all the other competences you can basically teach them, but it's if the hunger is not there, then yeah, you can have the best CV, so to say.
Yeah. And I love that you really go from a generalist to a specialist approach as you then also grow the company. I like that sort of concept. Laurent, with your experience, you always have this debate, and I'm also curious to then hear Melanie's take on that. But the marketing team, usually when you have a sales team then taking over, the marketing team needs to generate leads for the sales team, right? They need to say, okay, our pipeline is well filled. We have maybe even meetings booked through the marketing team. We have leads that we can work on to then close those deals. However, the transition there, not everything that the marketing sees as leads is also accepted as leads from the sales team. And there's sometimes a bit of a disagreement. Let's put it that way. What is your experience to make that handover and sort of also transition from marketing to sales teams work the best way?
Yeah, that is not easy always. At holycode and at Bexio, that's always been the discussion, right? What is a marketing qualified lead? What is a sales qualified lead? What are the criteria that need to be met? Bond criteria or whatever else you want to be using in order to say this is a qualified lead. This is never a static topic, right? It evolves, it goes back and forth, because even if you get to the point, and we've tried that a couple of times, where you get to the point where sales says, okay, and marketing says, this is exactly what we agree on, this is fine. 3 months later, you have different features out in the market and your ICP is moving. And, you have to constantly readjust a little bit. So I think the most important thing you have to do is to make sure that marketing and sales are incentivized accordingly together. Not that marketing is incentivized by bringing 2,000 leads and sales is incentivized by converting 5 super big paying customers. Then it's not going to work. So their incentivization needs to be really tied into each other, so that they know if I want to perform, they need to perform, and the other way around. And once you get this alignment, that they know I cannot do it without you and you cannot do it without me, suddenly it's not, but this month they didn't deliver enough leads and stuff like that. It's suddenly they start discussing, how can we get more leads? What can I do to help you, right? And then the discussion changes. But it's an ever moving target, and I have today not figured out how to do it exactly, other than really aligning the incentives for both teams.
But at least you have a ton of great memes and funny videos about this challenge between marketing and sales. That's also
true.
something.
How did you solve that at Yokoi? Because I imagine you were a very sales-driven organization, so marketing played a very, very important role to make the sales team happy and then generate revenue. I'm sure you also had some tough negotiations along the way.
Always.
How did you do it? How did you make sure that the teams were actually incentivized to row in the same direction and not in opposite directions?
I think I was very lucky that, like my counterpart Lars, that we were both founders and we got along and still get along very well. And I think that really makes a difference because he had an understanding of why marketing is important. He always kind of supported me there, and the same for me. So if basically the top is strongly working together, that also then trickles down to the people, and really making sure that the marketing people and the sales people work together, that they know each other, that they're really ideally even in one room if this is possible. And then I saw at numerous times where shit hit the fan, like they were both working together because they also liked each other and kind of understood what we were doing. But of course, like especially with the incentive part, I 100% agree. Like that is what we had a couple of times where the incentives were so not aligned, that they would, for example, even though our like marketing leads would convert much faster because they were incentivized to actually close sales like leads, they would just concentrate on that and not do the thing that is actually best for the company, closing fast and kind of moving on. So there we also had to adjust a couple of times. And I think it's a constant negotiation, but also kind of bringing the humans into one room and making them understand that you can only win if both kind of work together.
I feel
and I
the
think,
incentive.
Silvan,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
think that's also very important. I just, when Melanie was talking about it, I figured it out. In a marketing or sales-led company, the CMO and the chief sales officer, those guys or those ladies need to be best friends, more or less, in terms of how they collaborate in the organization. And chief product and CTO, in my opinion, also need to be best friends, because otherwise that's not going to work out. In a product-led company, product takes over this role from sales. So then marketing and product need to be best friends, because those together are driving the success of the company. You might not even have a chief sales officer at this point, right? So I think that's very important, talking about, which kind of growth you have. But I'm always trying to pair those people, that they have someone else that they need to perform in the right way, and they're really relying on each other and align their interests. And I think when you're marketing or sales led, marketing and sales need to be super close. If you're product led, it's marketing and product that need to be super closely tied to each other. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Very good point. Yeah. Melanie, we talked about incentives. I feel incentives, not only when it comes to align marketing and sales, but overall in a whole startup, are probably one, if not the most important thing to get right. Because when shit hit the fan, people behave the way they are incentivized, right? So how did you do that in practice with Yokoi? Did you give your marketing team a commission on the leads that they generated for the sales team when they closed, or how do you incentivize that they were really in the same boat?
We didn't do that. We were always discussing it from time to times.
Mhm.
Back then, like we felt that the sorry, can you still hear me? Because it says that
Yeah.
I'm okay. Sorry, my connection is somehow a little bit shaky. So back then, we also felt that kind of the, it sounds cheesy, but somehow the reason why people are like there in the marketing team and why they're doing their work and what their like what their goal is not like a commission. Like it was much more to build a brand, to build something they can stand behind. And so we felt back then, maybe it was wrong, that this wouldn't lead to the better outcomes. It was other things. So we never tried that. Maybe that would have led to some sort of outputs. I think it really depends on the person. There are just people who really strive and are super competitive and always want to have the biggest numbers no matter what. But I guess sometimes in marketing you also need to do things that don't lead just to the biggest number, but maybe to the most long-term impact. And
Yep.
so there again, it's an incentive question where with commission you might not achieve that.
Very fair point. Yeah. Another topic I also want to bring up, because now we talked about, okay, you need to generate leads as a marketing team for your sales team. Another important topic or area of focus for the marketing team is branding. And Laurent, I know you guys are also very well known with holycode. You participate in many, many events. People see you, they meet you, they follow you on LinkedIn. Maybe they even subscribe to your newsletter. To what extent do you really purposefully invest and say, we want to build a brand because it helps us doing X, Y, Z? I don't know what it is, but to what extent is brand building a purposefully chosen strategy that you follow at holycode?
It's 100% our strategy. When I joined holycode full time 3.5 years ago, that was basically the first thing that I said was, okay, look, we have an okay brand, we're okay known, but if in such a competitive market as IT services, and then we also want to work with startups that usually don't have a lot of money, so you cannot go and spend tons of cash on client acquisition because the margins afterwards just don't add up. So you need to be able to get a pull from the market that people just come to you. So from day one when I joined, I said the one thing we want to be is we want to be the number one IT service provider for startups and scale-ups. That's what I want us to be known for. And that's the whole marketing setup that we have. We don't do any Google ads. We don't do social ads. We don't do anything that is sort of conversion driven. All we invest into is up funnel awareness, activation, and getting the brand out and getting people to know us. Yeah, so that's really what we're doing, and so far it's been going well. So I think it's the right approach. It has downsides because scaling this to other countries has proven to be much more difficult than we thought. You know, Switzerland, we're doing an amazing job. Southern area of Germany as well. Now London surroundings, we're also starting to see traction. But the US, for example, we've not yet managed to get the same kind of traction. The budget would have to be very different. I think one of us founders would have to move over there for the beginning as well. So this branding heavy, local heavy, event heavy way of doing things makes it much more difficult to scale internationally. That's one of the learnings from especially the last 12 months, in my opinion. But I'm still happy with it, and I think it's the right strategy.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just like adding to that, because I also believe branding is such a powerful tool. And I mean, in the end, it was basically also one of the reasons why when Davis asked me to join as a co-founder, that I kind of took it as a challenge, because I thought, like, if you have such a dry topic that is really nobody likes expenses, and it's such a like cumbersome thing. Like there are two things that I want to achieve. It's one, that we basically have a brand that stands for something that big companies then actually choose instead of like the SAP Conquerors of this world. That was one thing. And the other thing is really like the talent, because back then I remember when I was reaching out to my whole network for people saying, hey, do you want to join our expense management solution? Guess what? No one was interested, because like the topic is not really like what everyone is excited about. And also, what is this? We even, our name was even called Expense Robot. So building up this brand to actually attract the right talents, they don't just come for clicks and kind of paid ads. They really come because you stand for something, you have a story to tell. They want to kind of signal, and this is on the client side what we see again and again, that people want to signal, hey, I'm with this cool brand. I don't go with the old one, the legacy one. I go with them because I'm very forward looking. But then also for the people, and at one point we had people not going to Meta and other places because they said, hey, your brand really stands for something that I truly believe in. And I think that is, it can be a huge game changer, especially, I mean, it's a lot of work, I completely agree, but I feel like especially in the early times of your market, where you maybe even still need to figure out the context and the category, I think it can be a game changer.
How is it for you, Melanie? I mean, you've built this brand, and I mean, you've done an amazing job at it. I mean, holycode, as one of your customers and as well as your partners, we've been with you on this journey for a long time, and now we also work with Perk/Travel Perk that acquired Yokoi. But is your heart bleeding now that it's all being rebranded to Perk and Yokoi disappears? I was wondering about that.
No, actually, I truly like, I really like how they did like the work. I truly like it. I mean, of course, I followed everything because I did like, I think twice a rebranding, just first with the whole name and then from a visual standpoint. But I mean, the like this the life or just the world changes, and also the taste, so to say, or just like what is special today is not special anymore tomorrow. So I actually really like the new branding, and I'm still very happy with it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like what they did. The new perk, it looks really cool, and it makes sense from from a positioning standpoint. That's all clear. But when I saw it, I was like, is Melanie happy about this or not? So
I think there it's very important, because I'm not somebody who says brand for the sake of brand. Like in the end, the North Star is always, does it bring the company further? Does it like help revenue? Because in the end, that's what drives the company. Like it's still like a money machine, so to say. And so if the brand helps to lead to that, then yes, but it shouldn't be that, oh, just because I like the name or the color better. In the end, like we need to kind of please our target audience, and they need to be captured, and that's the whole goal.
In that sense, I have a quick follow-up on this one, because it makes sense, right? The brand, it helps you to sort of, it's like a leverage that amplifies everything. If you have a good brand, your deals are probably going to close faster. Your campaigns that you pay for are probably converting higher. Your reputation to attract talent is better. So it has a big leverage in that sense. If you have a good brand, everything else gets better or a bit easier. But at the same time, it takes time to build up that brand. And if you are young and you're starting out, you want to see revenue immediately. So you might prioritize performance-based marketing activities first. My question is, how do you measure the effect of your brand to also sort of assess along the way whether you're heading in the right direction or not? Because I imagine that very, very difficult to do. Performance marketing is easy. You see, I spent this money, this is what I get out. But with the branding, it's way more difficult. How did you do that, if even possible?
I mean, I can tell you from what we did at Movu Times and at Bexio Times, because let's say, for example, we invested a lot of money at Movu back then into out-of-home campaigns, billboards and stuff like that, which is super difficult to measure right away. What's the impact? But what we then started to do is, after you signed up, there would be a question where you could say, where do you know us from? And there was always TV, there was always radio, and there was always out of home, whether we were using it or not at that time. And that gives you baseline, because 5% of people said they knew us from TV. We never did a single TV campaign ever. So, you have to also be able to correct for those wrong answers that people just associate you with something that they thought is true, but yeah, it's actually not. So that was helpful. And then you see really over time, you could see when we did the out of home billboard campaigns, for example, we had for around 3 months, we would have a strong uptick on people actually knowing us from there. And then it would sort of, level out again afterwards to the mass of people, 5% or whatever. So that was one way. Another way that you can do it is studies. So at Bexio, for example, and some of the companies where I'm now in the board, we do yearly studies where basically people are just being called over the phone or on the street and asked about which brands that they know. And then also asking them, do you know this brand? So sort of different ways of asking for it. And over time, that can help you show the impact that you have. But especially when you're very early on as a startup, yeah, what's the point of trying to do that? I mean, if you just go out in the market and you call people and you say, do you know our brand? Well, if 0.1% of the people know you, it's not going to be worth to do a study around that. So this only happens at a certain scale. So before that, it's really trying to measure this sort of feedbacks from customer, these metrics that I just said before. Plus, you can also make assumptions. And now with AI, it's getting better, but that's always been a bit difficult, is to say, okay, in times where we did billboard campaigns, were the conversion rates going up? Were they going down? Was that isolated to this sort of marketing activities? Was it to someone else, something else? So you can actually get there, but it's never, at least in my experience, maybe Melanie can say afterwards differently, but in my experience, it was never a very exact science. There's always a certain room for interpretation. And that's where I think the CMO is super important. The best CMOs in the world, in my opinion, they can really properly hold this space between performance marketing and brand building, and making everybody understand why both of these things are important and why this is the right setup that you're using. And it's really a lot about being able to present it in the right way to investors, to the management, and to stakeholders out there. So the best marketing managers I've met, they really can hold this space.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And I feel like it's such a it's still today, like it's so hard to kind of like, for example, we were very strong in media. Like like, of course, we started with the smaller ones, but at one point we had Wall Street, Bloomberg, Handelsblatt, like all of the big names. Oh, where does that come from? Of course not because a Bloomberg journalist at one point just thinks, oh, this random startup, I could write about it. It was a lot of work, but like I got questions again and again, like where are the leads from this article? And you're just like, well, especially in the area where we were in at one point, because earlier we were a bit shifting the target audience, but in the mid-size and larger enterprise, I think it like according to a study, it's like 12 touch points that somebody needs to have in order to only go on a sales demo. So imagine, I mean, this cannot just be paid ads or be an event, but it also needs to be, you read an article, or in our case, we went to Höhle der Löwen, so the Lion's Den. I was so surprised how many also of the bigger clients actually came through that because they saw us on TV and somehow they thought it like that is now the trigger where they want to talk to us. But I feel like there it's really also the founder's responsibility and the CEO's responsibility, if you don't have a marketing person in your founder team, to also see the value that you get out of it, because it's not a short-term impact, but it is a longer-term impact that then has value also when it comes to revenue and sales. And I think that is super important to understand.
And
Melanie, I think you
the
just
biggest
shared the
hack is,
silver bullet. You just shared the silver bullet to go on TV, to participate in a TV show. That's it. We found it.
No.
I heard you can become president of the United States if you do that. Huh?
Oh my God.
If you have
True
your own
that.
TV
Yeah.
show. But what I wanted to say before that is the hack that I learned, which is not easy to get to, but that is super powerful, is if you can get celebrities to invest into your company and use them in the right way. So at Movo, for example, we had Jan Sommer, Swiss national goalkeeper. That was crazy what that did for us. Suddenly newspapers, like Melanie said before, but for us, suddenly newspapers were interested in the story because it was more, the broader market. And I've heard from a couple of startups, I'm not going to say the names exactly now, but what they're doing is so amazing. If they have big deals with, let's say Unilever as an example, all right, they need to get this deal signed. They have a an American actor or actress invested into the company, they just do a 30 seconds video saying, hey, Mr. such and such, would be amazing if our product would be featured with you guys, would be lovely to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Send that through. You will get the deal most of the times, because even the CEOs of those big companies, they're so impressed by getting a direct message from such a star. So if you can have that and you can leverage, I mean, you cannot do that 20 times because Roger Federer, for example, would not do that 20 times with you. But if you can do that on the 3, 4, 5 biggest deals, that can completely change the story of your startup. So I see that more and more, that having a famous investor is actually a really good marketing trick for you as a company.
Do you think that's mainly true for B2C companies or also for B2B?
The examples that I talked about, except for mobile, were all B2B companies, because it's deal making. It's not getting you known in the market more. It's really let's say in Yoko's case, the CFOs wanting to talk to you because you have this very cool guy in the background and they heard that you can get a signed shoe, or that you can, whatever it is. It's amazing how much influence this can have on the conversion rates in your company.
And I mean, even there, without because not everyone has a famous actor or a famous sports person in the angel investment committee. But even there, I feel like really leveraging the customers that are your champions, and especially like as a startup, like you cannot underestimate the power that you have by just asking the ones that were the early believers in you. Like we had some people, they would like go above and beyond just to kind of pick up the call and convince the big other CFO that yes, he is super supportive, and sometimes he even exaggerated more than our salespeople. But we will be forever grateful, and I think that is really, if somebody else is talking about you in a good way, these referral calls, they can really be magic. So I think for anyone listening, not having an actor in their investor committee, don't despair. Just look for these champions, because people want to help, especially early stage startups.
I really, really love this idea. You give us a lot of new ideas to think about and new movements or tactics to test out. Before we head to the next section, I want to also quickly talk about KPIs. Laurent, I know we briefly talked about product-led growth. If you had to just choose one core KPI for product-led growth activities or initiatives, what would it be? What would you focus on?
I'm so boring, but it would be retention rates. Because in the short term, there's a lot of other stuff that is very important, but at the end of the day, retention rates trumps everything, right? So the more customers you have that are sticky, that are long-term, that will pay for it, the better. So this is really the most important metric for most SaaS companies, I would say. But obviously, there's a lot of others that are super important as well. Starting up funnel, customer acquisition costs, then time until they have this aha moment or they activate the tool properly, the usage rate, how often do they use it, how at Bexio, we knew, for example, I don't know the exact numbers anymore, but I knew, for example, if someone was in the tool in the trial period for more than 4 times, they would convert. We would not even have to talk to them. So, nice. Those sort of things, they're extremely important. But at the end of the day, the leaking of onboarded customers that you've invested time and money into to get them, that then drop out, which is basically your churn or / your retention rate, that's the most important metric in my opinion. Everything else is secondary.
Love it. Melanie, when we focus on marketing and sales-led activities, what's the marketing KPI that you would focus on? Just one.
I mean, for us, it was like qualified pipeline that turns like recurring revenue fast. But I really think that we need to distinguish here the stages. So when you are really early on, it's about learning. So talking about the right ICP and validating the problem, so to say. When you hit product market fit, it's more like the marketing source qualified pipeline, so to say, to really prove that what you're doing is actually leading to ARR. And then at one point, when you're at scale, it's really like the CAC payback. So it really depends the stage. So I wouldn't just say there is one KPI, but in the end, the North Star is always ARR, or was always our KPI.
Makes sense. And now, after everything we talked about, we have sort of a new technology shaking things up a bit in marketing. It's AI. Maybe start with you first, Laurent. How do you use AI in your marketing activities and efforts, if at all? And basically share a bit what works well for you and maybe also what doesn't, just to get a bit of a perspective from a practical landscape.
What is AI? No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, it's
It's LinkedIn posts, you
obviously,
know?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, AI is in everything by now, honestly. Like, there's almost no area also in our company that AI doesn't touch, but it's always to very different degrees. So, in marketing, I'm not going to go too much into detail because I don't want everyone that is listening that is our competitor to do the same thing. But I mean, in the end, let's say we do webinars, then we have automated workflows that take these webinars, write articles out of it for blog posts, for LinkedIn posts, for my email newsletter, which I then obviously go over and rewrite them so that they sound like they're from me. But the webinars are also for me usually. So that makes sense. So there's a lot of AI in that. Usually that would have taken us hours. Now it's a couple of minutes to get this ready. Um, I don't use it myself, but other people obviously use it for LinkedIn inspiration, for the posts that they're doing, for the outreach. Almost everything we design, event banners and stuff like that, that runs through AI tools now. Yeah. Tell me one area that it's not touching our marketing setup now. SEO, SEO stuff that we look at, it's usually run through an AI as well to make sure that it works, or through a tool at least that uses AI. So there's almost no area anymore that is not being touched by AI, but it's currently still human in the loop. So we're not at the point where it's just on autopilot. It just does it, and it performs at a very high quality. Usually the output is okay to good. It's never great. And then you need a human to actually, enhance it to the point where we say, okay, that can have the holycode brand on it. Let's put it out. That's how we work currently.
You haven't sent your AI avatar to the live streams yet. I'm glad about that.
Not yet.
Who
Are
knows?
we
Maybe
sure?
next year.
It's still a bit sketchy. I mean, I'm always trying, man. Really, this is my secret goal is still to have my AI avatar do meetings for me. But it's super easy to have an AI avatar that can take meetings if it's a fake personality, right? Sorry, if
Yeah.
it's a fake person. But if it's yourself, the rendering time and the calculation time, even though it's gone down from, I think, 12 seconds per second of video to 2 seconds or 1.5, it's just still lagging way too much. So it's not there yet, but I'm still, one day, Silvan, one day I won't be sitting here.
That would be fun. How are you using it, Melanie? I know you have a broad perspective with the ETH AI Center, Yokoi's perspective, a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, at ETH, it's my daily bread and butter with all of these brilliant researchers who are really doing from robotics to health to foundational stuff. So that's super exciting. I maybe can share a little bit how we use it for follow the gradient. So it's just incredible, and I guess with Swisspreneur it's similar. Like what we are currently doing with just like Christian and I, and hopefully soon a working student that we're currently hiring. It's like, I think only 2 years ago it would have been 10 people, just like easily, because like the stuff that you can do with automating, but really for deep research, kind of going through all the transcripts, like figuring stuff out that you wouldn't have found yourself. I think there AI can be very useful, but as Laurent also said, it's still very average, and yeah, so you really need to know for what you're actually using it and for what not. But it is a huge leverage for anything, cutting, editing, distributing, recycling. I think there it's really a game changer.
Yeah, I feel it's great in the processing of stuff, but not in the creative part yet. There, I feel it gives you good angles, and maybe you discover one or two things that you would not have discovered yourself. But at the same time, to ensure a good flow or asking the right questions at the right time, there I feel AI is just not there yet to fully replace it. Great inspiration, but not 100% quality. But for the processing, super helpful. Yeah. So if you look a bit into the future before wrapping up here with some rapid fires, what trends in marketing and product-led growth are you most excited about for the coming few years? Let's start with Laurent and then Melanie.
Oof. Very good question. What am I most excited about? I mean, double-edged sword. I am excited that AI is taking over a lot of the stupid work that we have to do in marketing, right? But I hate to see all this AI slop out there.
Yeah.
So I think probably I'm most excited about more face-to-face personal connections again, because whatever I see online by now, 90% of it is just total BS. Honestly,
Yep.
it's hard to go on any platform anymore. Like LinkedIn is the only one that I still use a little bit because it's my job. But that's about it. So what I'm most excited about is more connections human to human again, because I think more and more people will just get tired of all of this online stuff. And then try to meet physically again. So more events, cooler events, more deep connections. And through that, hopefully also different sales cycles, that start working a little bit differently. But I might be old school with this, but yeah, I really believe that we will see a push back towards more offline stuff.
Nice. What are you excited about, Melanie?
Yeah, I think when it comes to also in combination with AI, it's really about this handing over this manual, annoying tasks that you have to do, and really have AI run this for you. So really, the systems that you can build now with just a single person entity. But then I'm also like very excited about the human-led brands. I think there is such a underestimated power of like the founder led marketing, or just like how you get to more customers. But also what is often forgotten is like and I always felt very strongly about is really the ambassadors that you have already within your company. I mean, that is one thing that I didn't touch upon, but I truly believe that if you don't have budget, you have people, and if you kind of teach them well what a brand is, and that this is every touch point that they have, that can be really a differentiator. And so I also believe that with the rise of AI, of this AI slop, everything sounds the same. It's really this creator entrepreneurial startups where you have people first, and then kind of comes the product. But people trust people, and they follow people that are inspiring and have stuff to say. And I really look forward to see more of that, because it also brings hopefully back more valuable content online.
For sure. The last minute I want to use for a rapid fire with just one word from you guys. Melanie, brand or performance, if you had to choose?
Brand.
Laurent, what's a marketing tool that you cannot live without?
Ample market.
Nice. And Melanie, if Follow the Gradient could interview anyone tomorrow, who would you choose?
Probably Anton Osika, like the lovable founder.
Nice. Laurent, the most underrated B2B growth channel for 2026?
Events.
I knew you were going to say that. Amazing. And the last one for both of you, if you had to choose product-led growth or marketing/sales-led growth? Melanie first, then Laurent.
I mean, whichever gets customers, but then I would, if I only can choose one, then it's marketing, sales-led growth, because that is where I'm coming from.
Nice. Laurent?
I'm always chasing the the unicorn, the dream that is never there. So then I have to say product-led growth.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, Laurent, Melanie, thank you so much for your time today. I learned a lot. You inspired me a lot to take things back to the drawing board and think how we can implement that. Thank you so much for your time and for your valuable insights, and all the best.
Thank
Thank
you.
you as well.
It was a lot
great.
of fun.
Yeah.